Welcome to Learning and Memory. So we're moving from abnormal cytology and talking more about normal things again. So how do we learn? What biological processes are involved? And what different types of learning and memory are there? So this is just a quick overview slide. So over the next two videos, we're going to be discussing the types of memory that have been identified, as well as the brain regions that have been identified that go with each type of memory. Then the later videos in this section will get into the neural mechanisms of memory, getting more into how memory works on even a cellular level. So first, turning our attention to a couple definitions, we see that learning is the process of acquiring new and relatively enduring information, behavioral patterns, or abilities characterized by the modifications of behavior as a result of practice, study, or experience. So thus, learning is a broad and a very broad topic that encompasses all of memory. Memory is a bit more specific, as it is the process or the ability to retain information based on the mental process of learning or encoding, retention across some interval of time, and retrieval and reactivation of the memories. Thus, there are three important aspects of memory: encoding, storage, and retrieval. Each of these are essential for memory to work properly. So, when we're unable to recall information, we call it amnesia, which is a severe impairment in memory. There are two types of amnesia, anterograde and retrograde. Retrograde amnesia is a loss of memories from before the onset of the amnesia. We may see this with an auto accident, for instance, where an individual was knocked unconscious and they can't remember an hour or two before the crash occurred. There's also anterograde amnesia, which is the inability to create new memories going forward. This is what the famous patient HM had. In order to treat uncontrollable seizures, he had his amygdala and most of his hippocampus, and some of the surrounding cortex removed from both hemispheres. However, the deficits in memory appear to be primarily from the hippocampus, as other patients who had other brain areas removed did not show the same memory impairment. So I have a brief video on HM that I think will be helpful. He died recently, so there's been a lot of interest in studying his brain and studying what exact areas were removed and what effect they have on memory.
At the University of California, San Diego Brain Observatory, scientists are shaving hair-fine slices from a frozen and very special brain, seeking to uncover the source of human memory.
The goal of the lab is to paint a picture of what the brain is like and how that picture actually is different and makes us, as I said, who we are.
It's the brain of an amnesiac researchers will never forget, Henry Mollison, who died last year at 82. As a young man, he suffered severe seizures. In an experimental procedure in 1953, a top brain surgeon removed tissue from either side of Mollison's brain. He lost the seizures and lost his ability to form memories. Neuroscientist Susan Corkin studied him for the next 50 years.
We have over 50 years of behavioral data. Now we will be able to link the behavioral data to what we find in his brain.
From him, scientists learned memories are formed in that very portion of the brain surgeons removed. Mollison could remember events before surgery, but after, memories vanished within 20 minutes. But he did remember JFK's assassination and retained motor skills like drawing and riding a bike, but he told Corkin he couldn't remember learning them.
What do you do to try to remember?
Well, that I don't know, because I don't remember.
The brain slicing procedure is live online. The samples will be digitized and put on the internet for researchers around the world to study. To zoom in to the tiniest neuron, like on Google Earth, and delve into the mind of the man who couldn't remember.
He revolutionized the science of memory.
Well, the way I figure it is what they find out about me helps them to help other people.
Leaving an unforgettable legacy for science. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles.
While it was true that H.M. was unable to report remembering anything, that didn't mean he wasn't able to show signs of memory. In fact, several aspects of memory appear to have been retained. An example of this is a mirror tracing test like what you see here in the picture, where H.M. actually showed improvement in doing this test, even though he reported never remembering doing it the day before. So each time he did it, even though he didn't remember doing it, his improvement got better each day, showing that he was learning despite not remembering it. Thus, there appear to be different forms of long-term memory. So declarative memories, these are the memories that you often think of when you think of memory. It is memory that can be stated or described. So facts, events, things of that nature are all declarative memories. However, there are also non-declarative memories, which are memories that are shown by performance rather than conscious recollection. So, put another way, declarative memories answer what, whereas non-declarative memories answer how. So, an example of a non-declarative memory is tying your shoes. Patient HM demonstrated the importance of the hippocampus in memory, but other patients have also shown the importance of other brain regions as well. For example, patient NA seems very similar to HM in that he was unable to create new memories. His brain was injured during a freak fencing accident where the fencing foil entered his brain through the nostril and damaged his left dorsal thalamus, causing bilateral damage to the mammillary bodies and likely damaged the mammillothalamic tract. In NA, we see anterograde amnesia, so an inability to recall new information for declarative information, but not for non-declarative memories. Thus, the medial temporal region, which was damaged in NA, is believed to be part of a larger memory system. Korsakoff syndrome is one you might remember from the dementia chapter. We touched on it just very briefly. Heavy use of alcohol prevents the body from absorbing thiamine, which is a nutrient important for memory. The result is damage to the mammillary bodies and also the basal frontal lobes. You can also have damage to the dorsomedial thalamus. Thus, the damage is very similar to patient NA, who we discussed earlier, and the symptoms are also similar. It often results in profound anterograde amnesia. Patients with Korsakoff syndrome will often confabulate, meaning that they'll fill in the gap of their memory with details that may or may not have happened. We all do this to some extent, as we see in false memory research. The book postulates that this is due to damage to the basal frontal cortex, but I'm personally more skeptical, as this is seen in many dementias, and indeed in individuals without memory problems as well. Thus, I read a bit less into the confabulation than the authors of the book do. So what you need to know is that Korsakoff differs from other disorders as it's damage to the basal frontal lobes, whereas others do not have damage to the basal frontal lobes. However, just personally, I think the link with confabulation is iffy. There are also two types of declarative memories. There are semantic memories and episodic memories. Semantic memories are more generalized information. So these are, for instance, facts, like knowing that, 1776 is when the country was founded. Whereas episodic memories are detailed autobiographical memories. So remembering something about my vacation last summer would be an episodic memory. So it's a difference between facts and experiences that we've had. And one of the reasons that we suspect that these are two different memories is, again, another patient KC, who cannot retrieve personal episodic memories due to damage to the cortex, but still had semantic memories intact. So, returning to types of memory, 3 forms of non-declarative memory have been identified: still learning, priming, and conditioning. Still learning is learning to perform a task that requires motor coordination. This could be drawing in a mirror like HM was asked to do, or even tying one's shoes. Priming is the phenomenon by which exposure to a stimulus facilitates subsequent responses to the same or similar stimulus. An example of this is if I have someone come to my office on the 6th floor in room 660 and I ask them to pick a number between 1 and 10, they will pick 6 at a rate that is above chance. Lastly, conditioning is classical conditioning, where we associate 2 stimuli, a stimulus and a response, together. We will discuss later different areas of the brain that seem to be important for each of these types of memory, but for now, just be sure that you understand the differences between them. Now, I have a video on priming that's a Darren Brown video. I love his work, so let me show you this. I think it'll give you an idea of how powerful priming can potentially be.
I invited 2 members of MBA, an advertising agency, to a secret location to propose an unusual task. Those who work in advertising are masters of persuasion. They subtly weave their images and slogans into our daily lives, knowing that we will register so much unconsciously. And then we walk into a supermarket and feel a sense of familiarity with a product we think we've never heard of. Millions of pounds a year are spent on it. It's brilliantly calculated, and we all fall for it. So I thought I'd turn the tables on the advertising experts. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Tony, yes?
Yes, that's right.
And Martin?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Darren. Let me get down to explaining exactly what I want you to do. Imagine that I'm opening a chain of stores selling a product, something I have a particular interest in. Your task is to come up with a poster advertising that store. And that poster must include the company name, whatever you decide that may be. It must include a strap line, some sort of slogan, and some kind of logo as well, some kind of visual image.
Sure.
Now the idea is you've only got half an hour to do this, so you've got to really work with your first instinct. So at the moment, you've got no idea what you're going to do, correct?
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm also going to give you this. I've had a few design ideas of my own.
Okay.
I want to leave this untouched. We'll come back to that later. All right? Are there any questions?
What's the product?
What's the product? Very good question. Passion of mine since I was a toddler. It's a chain of taxidermy stores.
Ooh.
Let me pop the pussycat on the envelope so it remains untouched. You have half an hour, gentlemen. Good luck.
Thanks. Thanks. Let's go for it.
Get stuffed as a start.
Animal Hospital.
Yeah.
The ones who didn't make it. No, that's probably just stupid.
To wins.
Our creature's great and small. Quality that says like nice, positive type dead animals. Animal heaven. Where animals go.
Animal heaven, that's good.
Graveyard.
Animal heaven's
Animal
good.
heaven.
Where the best animals go to.
Loads of clowns with animals on them.
Yeah,
Gates,
harps,
pearly gates,
gates.
bear playing the harp.
Yeah. Only the best
Zoo.
get in. Only the best get into there.
Yeah, yeah. Where dead animals go to live. Where the best.
It's the best place for dead animals. It's simple.
Time up, gentlemen. I can't wait to see what you've done. Come and show me.
Okay.
And Tony, before we do this, can you take the envelope I gave you earlier?
Okay.
And can you please vouch for us here that no one's been anywhere near it, it's been under a dead cat, no one's touched it?
That's right.
That's the truth.
That's
That's the
right.
truth.
Keep hold of it, come round here. Now, before we have a look at it, just tell me, what was it like?
We started off thinking about the name. I thought that was we thought that was probably the best thing to
the
do.
starting point.
Sure.
And then take it from there, really. We banged out a load of ones that were probably completely stupid, and then got down to the ones that were slightly stupid, and then we kind of, that went back and forth for a bit, and then kind of got something we liked and developed it.
You can I have a look?
Sure.
Sure.
Is this it?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. it's a bear with a lyre.
So it's animal heaven, the best place for dead animals.
And it's obviously, you'd see that it was stuffed
how did you come up with the name Animal Heaven?
We had the idea of the pearly gates of heaven being the zoo gates.
Zoo gates as the gates of heaven. That's interesting.
i.e. sort of all the animals that are dead are in a dead zoo, if you like, in heaven. And then we just kind of thought, well, it's kind of nice, but it's a bit twee. We wanted to make it a bit funkier. And then we thought a harp-playing bear just answered the brief.
It's fantastic. I do want to show you my own ideas from beforehand.
Okay.
I don't want to touch. Would you open them for me?
Sure.
And the winner is...
I think you'll find this interesting.
Okay.
Look at the envelope.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. All right. Not a million miles away. Let me put this up there. Hang on to that. It's a harp-playing bear.
Yeah.
God.
You've gone for these angel wings here. Were you thinking of angel wings or bird wings?
Yeah, well, they were kind of a combination.
You do them a lot better than me. This was the same thing. I was thinking angel wings there. You've got animal heaven. I got creature heaven.
Yeah. So
Where the best...
you're a bit off there then.
A bit off there. Where the best dead animals go. Did you put best place for dead animals?
Wow.
Very similar. I had the idea of a zoo gate on there.
It was hard to leave out.
We didn't want to overload it.
It was hard to leave out, but
Sure.
it was just a bit too much.
Can I see your other, the other one you were talking about?
Put
Is
it
it
down. Yeah, it's just before then.
Is it very different?
Well,
Well, it's just the gates.
yeah.
Oh, gentlemen, please.
I'm drawing quite similar.
Look at that. This was the image I was thinking. I've done it there in the background because this to me was the more striking image. And interestingly, you abandoned this for this one. This was obviously
But
clear in the line.
the first bear I drew looks exactly like that one, actually.
It did, yeah.
The first bear you drew.
Yeah, shall I show you on the nose?
Show me.
Like that,
Show me. What have you got?
Well, this is scary, really. But,
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. You've got the cloud, you've got the blue. If you knew the amount of effort we've gone into making this work, you'd be absolutely flabbergasted. But for now, it's comforting to know that you're just as susceptible to subliminal persuasion as the rest of us. Thank you very much for helping us out. Tony,
Thank you.
Martin.
Pleasure.
Take care. Thank you very much indeed.
Bye-bye.
I think I'm quite cynical, and when I saw the bear and I saw a cloud, first of all, from behind the paper, I thought, hang on, he's close here, and then when we saw the rest of it, I couldn't believe it.
I immediately thought, oh, I'm gutted. I could see that it was folded, and I just saw the bear's foot hanging over the cloud with the harp.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
You know, it was
And
gutted.
how embarrassing.
But no, I think, oh, fantastic, you know, I'm over the moon.
I mean, yeah. And obviously we're pleased for him,
Yeah,
So,
yeah he's...
as long as, if he comes out of this looking good, then that's, that's always the main thing.
To see how we did it, watch their taxi journey again.
I put a spell on you. Cause you're mine. You better stop the things you do. I ain't lying. No, I ain't lying.
So honestly, that video overstates priming a little bit, but I still love that video, and it gives a good example of how things can be primed and then lead to subsequent responses and influence subsequent responses. So this is just a figure I would review if I were you, just to make sure you have all the different aspects down. So within long-term memory, you have declarative and non-declarative. Again, declarative are things you can say, non-declarative are things you can't. And within declarative, you have episodic, so things that happen to you, and semantic, such as facts. And then within non-declarative, you have skill learning, such as riding a bike, priming, which you just saw a video of, and conditioning, such as Pavlov's study with the dogs. So there are actually different types of memories with different durations. So the first ones are iconic, or some of you are more familiar with echoic memories. These are very brief memories, often lasting less than a second for vision to a few seconds for auditory information. I usually say that these are the husband/boyfriend savers, at least the echoic are, because you may have it where the female individual says, what was I saying? And then the boyfriend / husband stereotypically is like, oh, well, you were saying, and says like the last, 5 words that the person said. Well, that doesn't mean they are paying attention. We have these sensory stores that are they're constantly there. We always have these memories. So we're going to have memories of the last couple seconds of what we heard, regardless of whether or not we are paying attention to them. And then we can draw that out, but we can't draw out more than that. So that is these iconic or echoic memories. Iconic is a visual, echoic is auditory. So they're very brief sensory store memories. Now, you can move these memories to short-term memories. So short-term lasts only for a couple seconds, or you can have them last longer for a rehearsal. So short-term, usually around 30 seconds. So if I give you a phone number, if I just say a phone number, you'll remember it for about 30 seconds, and then if you're not rehearsing it, it'll go away. But if you are rehearsing it, if you keep saying it over and over again, then you can hold on to it indefinitely. Research on short-term memory has found that short-term memory, in fact, appears to be made up of different types of short-term memory for different sensory systems. However, all this information somehow needs to be brought together and integrated. Thus, working memory was born. Working memory is a buffer that holds memories and allows them to be integrated and processed, so it's much more of an active process than what was previously thought was short-term memory, just holding information. There are 4 main components of working memory. There's the phonological loop, which contains auditory memories. So when you rehearse the phone number that we talked about before, this would be in your phonological loop. You also have a visual spatial sketchpad that holds visual information. So when you're trying to work out a mental map in your head to try to find your way back to your car, for instance, this is what you're using. The episodic buffer contains information that is integrated from different memory systems. So this is where it all comes together. And lastly, there's a central executive, which will be discussed more next week. The book also mentions intermediate memories, but they don't get much play, and they're mentioned primarily because one of the authors is an intermediate memory researcher. So thus I want to go ahead and jump ahead to long-term memories, which are memories that last from days to years. Research on the serial position curve shows differences between short-term and long-term memories. We also see biological differences between them. So, for instance, rats with hippocampal damage show recency, but not primacy effects. So thus primacy may rely on the hippocampus encoding the information, whereas recency seems to be primarily due to attention. The fact that it is attention-driven and these memories are not encoded are why they don't enter into the equation as far as long-term memories.